So good morning and good afternoon to everybody for the IrisBG webinar on the 1st of February 2018 with Havard from IrisBG and Greg Payton from the world famous the Dawes Arboretum in Ohio.
I'm not sure if it's world famous, but it's at least a county famous. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's today the topics. What we have received this time around. Sometimes we have these webinars where we focus on a specific topic. We haven't got a general topic to talk about, but we have a list of questions that has been sent by Polly from Smith College. So we will go through those, and then people who have other questions can please send them in or speak out during the session, and we'll try to see if we can cover them all before we finish. Officially, we say we stick with a 50-minute session. We try not to run over that, but if there's a lot of questions still hanging in the air, we'll try to answer those as well. So,
this is Abby. I requested a little bit of focus on the facilities management aspect of IrisBG. Are we going to touch on that today?
Yeah, we will go into that as well then, and then what we'll do is we'll try to cover both. And so we have a long list of questions, but I think a lot of them are very easy to answer. They're quite short, so it's we'll definitely get to talk a bit about facility management as well. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so the first question is, where do you set up the default date format in Iris? So many of you who've seen videos before, you will see that the date, when I use it, will come up in European style. So what Iris does is it will sniff out the format you have on your computer. So you see here it says on my computer, because I'm based in Europe and prefer that format, it will in Iris be the same. So it's personal, dependent on how you set it up on your computer. There's nothing to do with dates in Iris as such. The only thing you can say is that when you record things like here, if I have a recording collection date, I can record a date with just typing in the year. So 2018, for example, and it will accept that as a date. Or you could do January 2018, like that. And that will be accepted. But then if you're in America and you type in 02/01/2018, that will then be February February the 1st of 2018. My brain is working hard to understand that. So, but for me, this will be then the opposite, because I'm on the European style date setup. So that's how you can't change the format in Iris, but you can change the format on your Windows computer. So that's how that works. Okay. And then the second question is, any suggestions on how to keep track of memorial trees and benches? So, the benches are probably also will tap into the facilities question, but let's do the benches first, because that's easier. And that is under management here. You have something called assets. So we're tapping into the, so I'm just running a trial version here, so I can play around with the data set. And here the trial version is set up with a bit of public services benches are here as a one category. So you can structure this the way you want. And here's one bench. And then if I want to put another bench in, I can just say B2. Bench 2, and then say it's a bench, and then maybe write a comment like in memory of or something of Peter Pan. Okay, and then you can here also say where it is on the map. I'm just going to bring up the map and then say that bench is up here on the lawn near this little rockery thing here. And then I could go one step further and say that we want to put this on the website. So I say publish full. So that's the first step of a memorial bench. And then what you typically do is most people would then use the events, the funding part, where you then will record. So let's say this is I'm just going to. This is probably not. Greg, you might want to supplement how you do it, but
I see. That's exactly the same way.
Okay, cool. Well, that's great. So I give this funding a name, and then let's say this we got the money, or we started this earlier this year. So I'm just going to 15th of January, and then description, bench and tree. You might have something more, obviously. And then this is a question: if you want to keep track of the address and who actually paid for this memorial tree and a bench, you can then add that person or whatever in the contact list. So I'm going to do that. So that is, I'm just going to clear that and say the name is Robert Am. So that's Peter's dad or son, maybe. Son is more appropriate, I suppose. I'm just going to make it easy for us, so just save that.
And I go one step further, and down there under tags, I have a tag called Legacy Contact that I can sort out all the ones that are just basically ones that donated for the benches or trees.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's add that to make the story comprehensive. So I'm just going to undo that one because I don't have. So you see here now I'm a bit stuck because I don't have legacy or memorial whatever. So I'm going to need to add that to my system. So I'm going to just save this now and go select and close. I'm going to save that so I can go down and add this type to the contact list. I'm going to go down to definitions, and then we go down to code lists. This is a code list. I just happen to know that. But you see contact type here. We have that, and then we're going to. So what did you call it in your garden gate?
I called it a legacy contact.
Because the person is deceased, or?
Well, it's the ones that, the person is deceased, but the contact is who you would contact to, like say the tree was run over or something like that you wanted to follow up and see if they wanted to select a new tree or,
oh, I see.
Yeah, just have the contact with the person that donated the money. So they were the contact for that legacy donation.
Right.
Right.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, and then I can navigate back to where I was. And then I can sneak in. So you see here with this little ellipsis button, I can just jump into Robert Pan again. And this screen is a bit low, so I have to sort of scroll that up again. And then I now should be able to add legacy contact.
Mm-hmm. I also use that for, because, we do the index seminum list, and the contacts that we send the index seminum to all have in it, and the index seminum recipient tag, so that I can filter that out and print a list of all the email addresses to notify them when the new list goes live. So I use the contacts for quite a few things.
So let's say we got $1,500. Is that a lot, or how? What's the going rate now for a bench and a tree, Greg?
We do about $5,000 for a bench, but.
Ooh. Okay,
we still do quite a few of them, so.
Oh, well, there's 6,000 for a bench and a tree then, a small tree. So then here on the list here we'll then add the asset. So we're going to bring up that bench, which was this bench here. I'm going to bench. Give it a better name so that we. And then select and close. So we have the bench. And then we're also going to put in the tree. I'm just going to do item here. And
that's it. So switch to a location.
That was what we wanted.
Fingers.
And now we will, I don't know. Do we have any quercus or something here? Yeah, we do it this one. It's quite young. It's just planted, but that's fine. So now we have a full overview over the donation, how much they paid, and what the bench and the tree. And the nice thing also, when you later opens up that accession here, this Quercus cocofiera, you will then see this accession record. You will see here that under the reference tab, you will see that it actually was part of a propagation, but it's also part of the memorial tree thing here. Yeah. But,
so that's found in reference.
Pardon?
That detail, that information is located in references.
Yeah.
When you go to find it. Okay.
If you're on the accession, you can see it in references, but if you're in the funding page, you just see it directly.
Yep.
Is it possible to attach photos of the bench or CAD files of the bench?
Yes. What you can do is there are two options. There's also an option to add a picture here on the funding already. So that will keep in mind that will be on the funding side of it. So if you have a picture that's related to, maybe you have the donor standing there beside the bench or something, I don't know. And then on the bench proper, on the actual bench record, here you also have a picture. So you can then load up a picture and add that here. So that's probably what some people will do. And if we look at the website, if you're going to put this online as well, let's have a look at the Dawes Arboretum, because Greg has done a great job there. So at the moment, if you then look at the map here, the Dawes Arboretum has published their assets, and is this one of them, Greg, or is that not a? That's a.
That's the tree application. Yeah, if you just click on features, the menu features at the top.
Now I'm a bit confused. Where's the features thing?
Search map. Just scroll up. Search map names features.
Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry. Yeah, that's what we should do. Yeah,
bench from the type.
Yeah, here we go.
And
here we go.
Click search.
But I think we have a ton of those in the new barn too, don't we?
Yeah. Then you get the text that Greg has then put in here.
Yeah. Now that one doesn't have a photo, but you can click around and find some that have photos, but
yeah,
not all of them do.
Very few have them, Greg. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
And then
yeah. So that text that you get here is the one that is here, isn't it? Or is it description? I can't remember at the moment.
Yeah, it should be that text there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, if you have Garden Explorer, just play with that to see how that will sort of come out. Yeah. Okay, so that's sort of the story about memorial trees and benches.
One more little feature that I can add to that before you go is if you go back to that funding record.
Yeah, that was something.
Yeah, right there. Okay, now say your Quercus crucifera dies, and you've contacted Mr. Pan, and he wants to put it on a Quercus alba or some other tree. You can mark the Quercus crucifera then as excluded, and then add the new tree as a new item. Yeah, you can make a note. Exactly. Then add your new item, some other oak or some other maple or something. It doesn't matter what it is. So he picked out a new tree because it was the area that he liked. Had a view of the pond, for example.
I'll just
There was no accession. So yeah, there you go. That's some sort of plan. And that one can be active. Yeah, the replacement for the original tree. You can make a note.
The date that you didn't get the.
Yeah. And then you have a full history of what the previous and the current plants were and are.
Yep, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Take a look and see if you want more culture of those.
Okay, let's.
Sorry, background noise in one of the speakers' rooms, or is it in one of the listeners' rooms?
So the alliums will need more time than the tulips.
Yeah, there is somebody with their microphone on. Has a conversation.
Sorry. I'll turn my microphone off. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Another meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
It just sounds like there's an open hallway to the meeting room here.
Yeah, it was quite interesting. Yeah. Okay. So let's go for the next one. So is there a difference between the admin role and the administrator role? Yes. Well, the admin role is not a role; it's a user. So that's a good question because people are a bit confused by that. So when you set up Iris, you have you obviously then first need to add anybody's going to use the system as personnel. So they need to be added here. We have a few here, users. And then after they've added them as users, so here we see the admin. That's the only user you get. If you buy Iris and you start from scratch, you will have one user that's called admin. Don't delete that one. Keep that. That's very important. Because I'm not going to spend time on default why you shouldn't delete it, but that's and then you will then grant access to the users here, and then you see that the admin is set up with a role of administrator. So that's the role which should not be confused with the user, but it's a bit confusing. So if you get new users and some of them are going to be administrators, you should then give them the role of administrator. So let's see if there's anybody here, both the botanists. Yeah. Anyway, so that's the different distinction. The first one is a user, and the second one is a role. Yeah. So look at the video tutorial on that, and hopefully that will clear it up a bit more. What we always recommend is that nobody actually uses the admin user for anything. It's more like a fallback if other administrators forget their password, so that you can then go and reset it by logging in as the admin user. But yeah. Second question here is, can all user roles be modified from their default settings? Or do you create a new role to accommodate different permissions? Or both? Well, when you get the system, you can play around with the roles and make new ones and do what you like. So the answer, I suppose, is both. You can, here, if you want the gardener to do more or less, maybe he's supposed to do more on accessions, you can then change that to update. So yeah, you can tweak this the way you want. One thing to note is that you can grant a user access to several roles. And that could be handy if you're a large institution. So you can have one that's called gardener, and then one role called head gardener, which maybe that you just give that a few more things. And then the head gardener will then have the role gardener and head gardener, and then those two roles together will sort of will be what that user has together. So it will merge both of them. That can be quite handy to if you have a bit of if you want to have a bit of a sort of fragmented access to different things. Okay. Yeah, and then we go to the next question, unless anybody wants to supplement that. So how and where would DIY codes be accommodated in Iris? Yeah, that's some systems have a concept of you record the plant is dead, and then you record somewhere else why or what happened to it, why did it die. So in Iris, when you have a plant here, I'm just going to search, bring up a plant, so accession. So let's say it's going to die here. This one. Let's say we go into item, and here we go. It's planted in 2017, and then when I want to say it's dead, I go here, and then you see that I have one status called dead, Now, if I wanted to keep track of difference, maybe I wanted to keep a simple track of plants died of horticultural cause and those who've died of natural causes, I can change that in Iris by introducing a new status type. So here under definitions, item status, under planting here, we have dead, and maybe I wanted to specify more, and then I could probably best to introduce two new ones. And let's say I'm just going to do that. PXH, I'm just going to give it a code, and PXN, dead natural cause, dead, or killed by staff really. So horticultural, yeah, cause. And then not. So when I say not existing, that means that when you have that status, it means that the plant is technically ceased to exist, as they would say. So I'm giving that to the same sort order as that one, just so they can sneak in together the other one. So here we go. Yeah, it's misspelled horticultural. Sorry about that, but we will move on. So when I then go in here now, status, and then I say this died natural cause. Now, if you want to specify further and say, okay, I died by fungi or whatever, or some sort of illness, you could split it up even further. The point here is, I suppose, if you want to run sort of reports and statistics on what people died of, and then. But here you can then do in the comments, for example, say something died of something. Yeah. For example, frost. Like that. So that's sort of the DIY thing. The benefit here is that you don't have to sort of select a lot of lists and make sure you fill in the DIY. So yeah.
If I can add to that, what I explained to Elaine, the way that we do it, is I keep a task list of using notes, basically, just to have the terminology that I use for the different codes, like a mechanical, animal, just basic terms like that.
Okay.
But then I just, under comments, I will type out that code just manually, like a mechanical, and then put a colon and then say, ran over by lawnmower.
Okay.
So, and I know what all.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I'm just saying. Then I know what all my codes are, and they're standardized based on the list. And then if I'm searching for all the animal-related causes, I can search under comments for animal. And then I get all those to be returned at once.
Okay, yeah.
Different status entries for that. All right. I mean, it could be whatever code you want it to be.
DBLM, dead by lawnmower.
Yeah, exactly. Or it would just be like a mechanical, and then you can say ran over by lawnmower, or ran over by car that went off road. I mean, you could have anything, hit by a tractor, that slipped in mud,
Then we change it to that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's one way to do it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
But the
good
thing
you mentioned
about
that you have that in a task as a cheat list. So you.
Yeah. Yeah. As a reference, I go under tasks, and I created a new task. That is basically like my DIY codes, and then I have and I set them to a note where you can just basically type in. I'm not picking it from a list. I can just type in what I want it to say, and then under comments under that, I can have a short few sentences, small paragraph that explains how to use that and why.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Greg. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So there's another question. Management inspections is not included in the trial version of IrisBG. Oh, I think it should.
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, sorry. The inspections. Inspections are found under events. So maybe that's the confusion. There was someone who asked if I can't find inspections in the trial version. So it should be, but it's not under management. It's under events. That's where you find it. So maybe that will answer that question. Next question is, inbox is only to used for data import and IrisBG mobile. No, the inbox is only for IrisBG mobile. So the data import is found all the way down here under maintenance, import data. They do similar things, but they are sort of split up a bit. So yeah. Let's see. Let's go to the next one. So the difference, I suppose, inbox gives you the possibility when you synchronize with the mobile, you can accept and reject different parts of the whole data set that you get in the data import. Obviously, you prepared the data set before you import it, so it's a question of accepting the whole thing or go in and change the spreadsheet if you found that there was something wrong with it, and then import it again. So that's the difference there in terms of functionality. The inbox, that's one thing that we seldom have a problem with, but you cannot change any information in the inbox. If there are any mistakes you find, you will just have to reject it and then deal with it somehow, either on the mobile or on the desktop to fix what you wanted to do. So that's sort of something we might want to look at, but yes. A question here, is there a way to flag new or updated accession items created by BG staff or manager of collections to review? In a way, so what you can do when you are in the accession screen, you can go to advanced search, and then you can go under registration, and then you say, give me everything that has been either registered, so new entries, or modified. So let's say I want to see everything that's happened since the 15th of January by this particular user. For example, I do admin in this case. And then I can go and review it. So that's sort of the solution to review, especially when you have new staff. You can then do that together with that person, or do it a bit more covertly. I don't know. It's up to you. Here I just made one change to this last 2 months. It's not been very productive, so that record came straight up. But it's quite a handy way to follow up. So that you could do on accessions and also on taxa. And taxa can be even more useful to yeah. So that's good. Okay, moving on. Does the mapping module accommodate polygons? So one thing that some people misunderstand, so Iris, when I look at this plant here and I bring up the map, so Iris will then present a base map that you have asked to be presented. So in this case, I'm using Google Satellite. But then if I want to switch to something else, like I can have, hold on, where is the, I'm just going to find, a lot of tests going on here, sorry about that. So here we got an ArcGIS map, so running on an ArcGIS server. And obviously that base map has polygons. But me as a user, when it comes to this particular plant, I can only put a marker with a point. So Iris can't draw a polygon. Let's say you have some ground cover or something like that that covered a large area. Then you would just have the possibility to use a single point to tell where this plant is. So there's no way of drawing a polygon and say this is where this ground cover is growing. The only alternative would then be to use ArcGIS or something else to draw that polygon on, and then put that as a base map. Not whether you want that or not is another question. Might not be the right way to do it, but that's the way to get around that if you want to use polygons. Okay. And then, related to maps, are locations or garden beds defined by a center point? Correct. Yeah, that's it. They are. How do you accurately place an accession item point within a location point? Well, accuracy is sort of it's a quite how accurate do you want it. So let's take a new plant here. Let's say we get a new plant here coming in. So we say that's in rock garden or just by the greenhouses, and we planted it today, and like that. And then when I bring this up now, if I don't do anything, that's the more important thing. If I don't do anything now, it will be in the greenhouses, and that's the center point. It has already given a location. So every time you search for this plant, it will be shown up as to be in that area, but we don't know where. Now, if you know where it is, you can just bring up the map, and oops, I picked the wrong one. And then you can go down here, and then click on the marker, and then it will put the marker where the center point of the area is. And then I can zoom in and say, I know it's just here. Now, that accuracy is, of course, very questionable, but that's how accurate you could do it with just dragging it in. And then alternatively is to do something like Greg and Dawes do with going out there with precision GPS equipment to measure it properly. I know some gardens also use tape measures and have the reference sticks in the ground, those kind of things. So it's a bit of an individual approach to how accurate you want it. Most gardens are happy, you know, the key is often that you just want to find the plant. If it's a couple of feet off, might not be a big problem, unless you're going to make decisions on construction work or anything like that. So, Greg, you might want to sort of complement.
Yeah, no, if you select enclose right there, just go ahead and put that in, and then you'll notice the coordinates are listed right there. So if you don't have like the mobile setup where you can map it in the field and then download it into the inbox and import the coordinates right in, which is how I do it, then you could say you just had a GPS receiver that had fairly good accuracy. You could just do as basic as copying down the coordinates as you're standing over it in the field and then typing in the coordinates, and that would put the marker at that point. A little bit more labor intensive that way and adds the opportunity for error, but that's a possibility.
Yep.
You could actually import them back in with the coordinates. There's just different ways to put that in, but yeah, we get generally about if I get a VRS carrier signal on my Trimble unit, I can get down to about 4-inch accuracy. Which, if you can't find an oak tree within 4 inches, there's something wrong with it. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so that's that often comes up, that sort of question about accuracy. It's not very. You can sort of very few things are exact. It's just a question of how exact or how accurate you want it. So,
and even out in the field with the handheld unit, with the IrisBG mobile application running, you can view the plants on the map and see all the surrounding plants. And if you know that you're mapping 3 plants into a triangle, and maybe your GPS signal is a bit off and it's forming a line and not a triangle, you can actually drag and drop the points right on the mobile application, so that you put one at the point, the one at the other point, the third at the other point, so that it actually looks like they do in the field and sort of override what the signal has told you. And then just by standing there looking at them, doing the field check. And then when you re-import that, it puts them in that position in the records.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
So another map-related question is, when plants are marked as dead, are they removed from the map? Well, the thing is, you have to think of it more like everything is like dynamic. So when you want to show a map of the garden and a certain number of plants, you do that from the map section. Yeah. And here you have different types of maps. So when you have local maps or maps of the garden, you go in here. And this is where you then decide whether you want to show by default, it will only display plants that are live or existing, as you see here. But if you insist on also including everything, also the dead one, then the dead one will also come on the map. So it's a bit, so you are in charge really of what you show on the map. So they don't disappear, but by default they won't come up. There's also a historic map, so you can see what has been growing in a section at a given time, which is really also quite useful. Where you can say, give me anything between 2010 and 2020, for example, which is a bit further ahead than we want, 2015, for example. And then it doesn't predict what is going to be there. That's one thing we haven't added yet, but based on your
that's your collections planning module that isn't out yet.
Yeah, exactly. It's the IrisBG time machine that's coming in. That includes your salary prediction as well. So, yep.
Point of mine says that I'm not making enough.
Okay. So you don't have to worry about the plants as such. When it's die, you could argue that it falls off the map in one way, but only when you ask for it not to come next time. So, yep. So
I find it useful, like say that I'm out inventorying in a garden area and I find a tree growing that's not on the map. It's not supposed to be there. And say it's lost its label, so I can't just look it up manually out in the field. I can come back in, or I suppose I could do it. Well, I don't know if I can do it with the mobile unit, but I come back in and then look at all the plants that were ever growing in that location. And based on my field ID, some sort of a maple, maybe it has some characteristics that make it easy enough to recognize. I can find if it was supposed to be removed and somebody told me that it was removed, but it wasn't. And then I can resurrect it, bring it back to life. Just have it taken out again.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I'm not going in there. We shouldn't. But anyway, have a play with that, and then you will. Digitizing methods. What kind of digitizing methods are used to locate and relocate points on the map? I think we've already mentioned that. You could use the drag and drop method, just as I showed you, or you could use the GPS. I know a few gardens also use. They have sort of a grid system where they put stakes in the ground that are very accurate, and then they use those to measure from with the compass, and so they say, okay, this particular new tree is so many meters or whatever you want to use, inches, feet, and it's a certain degree, and then they can calculate the position based on that. There's if you have that method, you can put it on an iris. Okay, so that's the methods used. So the question is the data import module limited to only importing XLS, spreadsheets, CSV, and TSV files? I think that's more or less correct, but I think most data you have could be transferred to that format anyway. So I haven't had any, I can't see any. So if I try to open a file here, we can see. But CSV, that's correct. But if you find that it's limiting, then I was going to say get in touch. It's Can tasks and inventories be exported to a PDA? Well, Iris Mobile, and we're working on Iris Handheld for Android and iOS. Both of those will do that. When you say inventories, basically you push out to the handheld. You get a copy of your data set with all the living plants, so you can then go and make changes and updates to those when you're out in the field. And the tasks will also join in. Tasks and inspections will also come with that.
The person that was asking these questions just asked about XML files, if there was no way to import an XML file.
No, well, the thing is, when you, not at the moment, because if we were to offer XML as an option, then we need to agree on some sort of schema. So that just complicates things. So if you have an XML file, I think you should yeah, you transform that to a CSV file. Should be possible. But at the moment, XML files are not supported. They're supported for export, but not for import. Yeah, unfortunately. So, in the trial version, it seems like there is only an option for closing the entire task and not individual items within a task. That is not the way I understand it. So, if you're working on a task, let's bring one up. Just take one here, propagation of Quercus. Maybe one with a bit more going on. This one, for example, this is a propagation request. So you can go in here and say this one is now completed, and this one is completed, and this one we didn't bother to do after all, and save that. So you can sort of gradually work your way through. However, if you go up here and say completed, then the rest will also be marked as completed. So maybe that's the confusion. So you can individually work on each entry, but when you say that the job is done, then every item will also be marked as done. Yeah. And there is Archer PDA with Windows Mobile 6. Is that compatible with Iris Mobile? It might be. It might be. I will have to look up. We will have to check that. So yeah. If we were to change the protocol for numbering our accessions going forward, while keeping past accession number, old number, would that be problematic? No, actually not. It's very unproblematic in that we in Iris we have something called the
conserved number.
Yeah, the conserved number. So with this system, let's have a look. I don't think this is set up with that. Oh, it is good. So when we set up the system, and you have a lot of what is called legacy numbers that don't comply to the format that you have here. So in this particular system, if I look at the more recent accessions from 2017 or something, we'll see that this format here is a year with a hyphen and a number. And then if you have a very different style on the old accessions, we can put that in this field here. So you can have maybe that was the old number or something with a A, B in front of it or something. And here you can then decide whether that number should be used up here or just as an information down here, and then you use the new style consistently for everything. So there's three variations on how to deal with that. So don't worry is probably what I should say, and then it will, yeah.
And that's set up under the collections under management, right? Is where you would turn that on.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
New collections, and then here we go under
conserved act number.
Yeah.
Where it says yes active, down a little bit.
There we go, yeah.
And then if you say passive, then it won't show it up in the top. It'll just keep it for a history and show the new numbering system.
Yeah.
So now if he goes back to that accession.
Again, now let's see if I say that it was, yeah.
We need to refresh it or something.
I need to save it again.
Yeah.
So keep in mind, if you do those kind of changes to a whole system, be a bit sort of alert. But then if you do it, you may need to run something called system tasks, where you can update all the accessions, or all these numbers are renumbered or recalculated. Yeah. Okay. Great. So that was, now we've done a lot of questions on the part here, and then there's a number of other questions coming in from the rest of the audience. Facility management, and then a few things on the list. So let's do facility management first. So I would say that Iris has some basic capabilities there. First is obviously that we saw initially that you have assets where you can put in things like water sprinklers and other machinery or whatever you want to call it. You can have that recorded in the list here, and then to keep track of or follow up that, you can then go and create a task. Here, let's say we want to create a task, varnish all benches. And then you can then put all the benches in here as a job. Let's see. Can I do a double select here? Yeah. So here's. Oops. No, I pressed the wrong button. Undo. Like that. So here we go. Here's the varnishing job. And then, of course, you can give these benches a number so you keep track of them and whatnot. But beyond that, there's not so much more you can actually do here in Iris. We're working with Brian Morgan from Esri to have a sort of a plug-in. We I know on our time or where you can synchronize data from Iris into ArcGIS. And I know that they obviously have a bit more of shall I say, power tools to deal with those kind of things. So at the moment there is limited from here what I showed here. I don't know, Greg, if you can supplement a bit or.
No, that's about as far as we go. I figure facilities management is usually an entirely different program. This is a records management system mostly for plants.
Yep.
But yeah.
The reason the assets is here in the first place, that was introduced initially because people might want to create a tour or a guided tour that might include things in the garden that are not plants, such as sculptures and benches. So that's why the purpose of them being here in the first place. But you could do a few things, but not much in terms of advanced facility management.
So, generate a history of information, create tasks associated with assets, just like you would do in Accession, correct?
Yes, yeah.
So essentially all the capabilities of, what you can do with an Accession, you can do with an asset.
Well, there are a few things that the Accession is more powerful with, and that is if you go here, it will automatically keep logging what kind of changes you make. So if I now, for example, with this plant, I say it's going to be moved to another part of the garden. So I've moved it to this part of the garden, and I did that today. And then save that, and then you will see Iris will then. Well, the date was a bit silly there, April. So it's anyway. So it will automatically generate a bit of history on what happened, but the asset screen is a bit more rudimentary. If I go back to the asset here, you see you only have a sort of very basic information about the actual bench.
Understood.
Yeah.
And one more thing, you mentioned that you're working with Esri on the ArcGIS thing. In terms of facilities management, is there a person at Esri you're working with in particular? Yeah,
well, I'm working with Brian Morgan. So the focus is here still would be plants and so we haven't actually, as far as I remember, I don't think we've focused much on this part of the assets. But it might be. So I have to get back to you if I can. Well, I'm quite confident that we have so much on our list, so this part wouldn't be included. I think in this particular plan, the sort of immediate plan anyway. But
okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks for going over that.
Okay, great. So let's. There's a few more questions, and we are 1 minute over time, so we'll try to cover them. And if you're, please hang in there. Let's see. Okay. I had a problem getting location codes to appear. What, Greg? Do you want to say something, by the way?
I'm just going to comment. Typically we're like begging people for questions, and this is quite quite question. Nice.
Yeah. We're having fun. No, it's good. Thank you very much. It's hard to predict whether a question would take 1 second or 5 minutes. So let's say I am having trouble getting the location codes to appear when I run reports. If, for example, I want to see the location code for all of our conifers in the collection, I click on the location code box, but I'm not getting that to show up on the report. Okay. I mean, there are two. When it comes to reports, I'm going to check. So there are two types of location codes. When you see the locations here, you will see that there is the greenhouse has GH, and then you have greenhouse Mediterranean has G01 in this case. And then sometimes you see them both together, which will then give GH and then a symbol and then GH, which gives you a very sort of clear of where in the hierarchy of the locations this particular plant would be if you have it in this part of the garden. So when it comes to reports, I'm going to go and look at the report definitions and see if we look at the plant report here, and let's say we have this one, items data. And this particular report doesn't show the location code at all, it looks like, does it? No.
So it'd be under item location right there at the bottom? Yeah. Down toward the bottom right there.
So I'm just going to see if there's an option to give the full item location tree kind of thing.
Item location name.
Here's the code anyway. Here's the code. So, but it doesn't give you that full depth.
Well, I think the code might be the full tree. I don't know.
Let's have a look.
I know the name is just a subset.
Items data reports. I'm just going to quickly run that one. And then if that doesn't work, I'm just going to do existing, and then I'm going to do, no, not accession. Just going to do rhododendron so I don't get a lot of plants. Okay. So let's see what I get now. One thing I know, I'm going to say.
A good tip while this is running, something that I always do is I'll often run a report without field selected, just so it brings in all fields. Yep. And then you can sort through and find out the fields that you want by deleting all the fields that you don't need from your temporary list here. And then you can set your form up to only show those fields that you wanted in your final report. Sort of process of elimination.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So here you see the location will give you the full code with everything, and the location code will just give you the specific code for that garden area. Yeah.
I was backwards, but yeah.
Yeah, it is sort of not intuitive. I agree. Okay. So try that. So when I try to enter,
for example, on some of these, it shows like ocean code, and I don't store ocean code, so I don't ever use that field.
No, but you know, if you're doing aquatics, if you have water lilies, you know. So okay. When I try to add a new taxon, to go to taxon nomenclature screen, under name properties, when I try to type in or find a drop down the genus, I cannot type in the genus field. Oh, right. Yeah. I wonder if we should. One thing I've seen. I've seen one incident when that happened because someone went into definitions and a screen that you should probably leave alone, but I'm just going to mention that. So have a check there. Taxonomic ranks. This particular screen is something you normally wouldn't go into unless you want to introduce a new rank in the taxonomic group screen. So keep away from this unless you know exactly why you are there. But this particular, if you change this particular check here to anything other than genus, then you could get these kind of symptoms where you won't see anything from the drop down. But I have a look in that screen anyway. If not, then get back to me and then we'll figure out why you can't find anything.
Okay, that's not the screen that I went into. I just went into the screen where you add a new accession that you've never had before. And
new accession, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Or not new taxa, because you mentioned new taxa in the...
That's correct. That's correct. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I went into name properties, and in the genus field, I tried to type in the genus, and it wouldn't allow me to type into that field.
Yeah, there's a hiccup sometimes. So when you start typing, there are. Oh no, maybe it's not. If you have hybrid taxa or not hybrid, but what do you call it? Yeah, hybrid genera. You might get some difficulties typing. But Greg, there are some scenarios there, isn't there?
Well, the issue is it's a drop-down list. You can't just type in something brand new. If you don't have the genus already entered in the system, it's not going to allow you to type it in. You would have to open the ellipsis box next to it and add the genus to the family that it belongs in.
Yeah. I did find it. I found it and it was located in the ellipsis box.
Oh, it is.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll do this offline and then see if we can figure it out. It's sort of, yeah. I think we'll see if we can get a few more stories here before we get up. Yeah, now is it? Yeah, this time. Can you replace the LSID verification under taxa from another source? Yes and no, in that if I go here and bring up, let's say, hopefully this one has several, and I do the check with IPNI. Oh, this isn't a good example. So I'm going to just try one. We want one with more references, which is a bit optimistic. To find that.
Yeah, so oftentimes they'll have different authors, different publications and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to do Campestre. That's a classic. Yeah. That would. Yeah. So. Oh, nice.
One.
Try that one then. Come on, baby.
So far, rolling here.
Why is it slow now? I don't know. The point is, if you have already selected it from one, you could just select it to something else, and then it will.
I think I is supposed to have two I's in the spelling.
Yeah. This one. Yeah. If I pick this one now, then the LSID is here, and I'm sort of stuck with that. But if I put the keyword mark it and click Control Delete, you can clear it. So that's one way. Control Delete will clear the field, and now it's gone again. So that's one option. Or you can pick it up and then select another one from IPNI, and then the number will be replaced. That's how we deal with that. Yeah, good.
The thing with IPNI or IPNI, if you want to pronounce the abbreviation, is that it basically is a list of all publications of that name, whether it's a valid name, a synonym, an isonym, illegal homonym, whatever format the name is. It could be the worst name ever, but if it's been published, it oftentimes has it listed. So when you're adding synonyms and alternate names to that record, it still finds that entry for it. So you have the verification of its publication, even though it might not be the correct or even a good name. It's not saying it's the valid name. It's just saying it was published by this author at this date in this document.
Correct. Yep. So that's why you get all synonyms. It doesn't know anything about whether it's accepted a synonym or anything like that.
Right. Whereas something like the plant list, it tries to make a judgment call about what the good name should be, and then it shows all the synonyms as well. But since the plant list sort of incorporates IPNI into its root metrics, as well as Tropicos and several other names, they ideally should be on IPNI as well.
Yep. I think we'll just. People can watch the recording if they have other things. So we'll finish off the questions we have because there's only a few left. The next question is, in Accession, under Details and under Locality, you can assign coordinates to the locality by placing a marker on the map in the locality. Is there any way to search the map for the precise locality if you don't know where it is on the map? Do I understand that question? Did you understand it, Greg?
No.
Okay. It might. Well, what I can say is there's. If you type in record a new locality here, and you place a marker in China, and then you say it's in Ohio, the system has no intelligence. You're basically United States or something, United States of America, and then let's say Ohio.
Sometimes I have to open up coordinates in like in a Google Earth. If somebody just sends me coordinates on a map and I have no idea what county, what city it's near, even what state, I'll just put it into Earth and then zoom in on those coordinates and then find the county, whatever level I have to add to flesh out.
So at the moment, we would love to have that capability that we, for example, manage to know this coordinate. There are some places where you know that this particular coordinate is actually in Fayette County, so we can deduce that, or the other way around, we can check that it is there, but we don't have anything like that at the moment.
Something you can do that I find useful. Go ahead and close that real quick, and then go to Maps.
Maps. Yeah.
Save that or not save it. Yeah, go to Maps. Now click location or the localities map. And then just put in like Ohio or some country, for example.
Yeah, I just do everything. Yeah, there's not much here. So.
Right, but then you can zoom into the area where you have, like if you look at Poland there, or Norway, and then you can look at the area and see if you have a dot already in that location. Because then if you just want to generalize it like it was in the same national forest or county or something like that, you can use that coordinate without having to type it in again and have two spots in the same location. Yep, that makes sense.
Yep. Okay.
Because for the plants collected at Dawes Arboretum, we have coordinates for different fields around, and we have herbarium vouchers collected in the same fields, different years. I can just go back in and select that same field. That's where it's collected, because it's all throughout the field, so I don't care about the individual plant that voucher was collected from, unless it was the only plant of it in the entire area. Then I might be more specific. But if it's a general plant, just being nearby is fine.
Okay. There was a question here also about, does the mouse over function that defines each field work in the trial version? It does, but keep in mind that we haven't implemented that more than we're, taxon name is sort of self-description, we think. We might be not for everybody, but we haven't given that help where all over. It's only when we have had questions, people ask, what is that for? Here, for example, population should come up, and it doesn't. So there must. Oh, you know what? If you change screen resolution, I've seen that some of these things have a tendency to not work really well until you restart the machine. So that might be the answer for that, why it's not working here now. But it should work, and it doesn't. So on this particular scenario now.
Look at mine real quick. But you have it up there. Let's see. Under collection.
Yeah. So the final question here we have now is, please explain the difference between institutions and contacts. So institutions are something you only. That's basically your company, or your top level. Like in the Dawes Arboretum, it would be the Dawes trustees or the Dawes Arboretum or something. So you never go in there really after you purchase the system. So it's only the sort of high level thing. Contacts, on the other hand, are all the suppliers of plant material and or involved in events or in the tasks and stuff like that. So this is where you are busy. So there's two very different things, but the names are confusing. Exactly, that's correct. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah, I had this discussion with Elaine the other day too, and I think there's under BG Base you can have an institution where, like, say, the Holden Arboretum, and then you have contacts like Charles Tubis works at the Holden Arboretum, Ethan Johnson works at the Holden Arboretum, so they're like subsets of the institution. And I explained that I just keep notes under comments or the reference person 1 and 2 on the screen that you have there about the individual contacts, and I mean email 1 and 2. But then if you have more, you can open up comments and then type in additional addresses, additional cell phone numbers. So it's not quite as smooth as having two tables, but it's more simplistic this way. It just depends whether you think that's suitable for your needs or not, or you can keep a separate database, I suppose.
Yeah. This is sort of trying to make it manageable for. I don't know. I want to use the word over-engineering, but it's sort of. It will cover most needs, and we could have added a lot of extra stuff here, but I think also then it quickly becomes quite difficult for a lot of people to understand how you deal with it. So there's a benefit of both approaches. This is sort of a compromise, you could say, in terms of making it no nonsense in terms of you can't obviously then send out emails to all your Peter Johnson and all the different people you deal with at one garden, for example, unless you create one contact record for each and one of them. You could do that, but that becomes a bit verbose as well. So then anyway, I suppose time has passed by, and we're now 10 minutes over or more even. So I suppose we could round off now, unless there's one final question from anyone.
Havard, this is Rebecca. Hi. I just wondered if you would be willing to go back over that question about the difficulty entering the new taxon offline.
Yeah.
Okay.
We could do that.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Then I'll say thank you very much for coming today. Thanks to Greg, and thanks for all the lovely questions. And we'll see you again in a month's time. That will then be the 1st of March. It was a very interesting situation where we had the 1st of, I don't know if anybody knows how often that happens. It's probably once every 2,000 years or something.
It being 28 days for the month, it's going to be exactly 4 weeks. So
so it's probably one every 7 years, probably.
Yes, happy Groundhog Day, as Pet says. Let's hope that rodent doesn't see a shadow.
Okay. Thank you very much.